So hello and welcome. My name is Morgan Talbot, co-owner of Food 360. I'm one of the, we are one of the sponsors of this event tonight, and the other sponsor is Zero Waste Capital District. Just a quick ground rules and expectations. The presentation is being recorded. If you didn't hear that, let it pop up. So if you don't want your video being recorded, then you can go ahead and put on the video. Otherwise, if you don't mind, that's happening. All attendees will be muted, and to ask questions, there is a chat function. So go ahead and enter it into the chat function if you do have a question. And if there's time following each presentation, then a few questions will be addressed. Otherwise, all the questions will be answered at the end of the presentation. So quick agenda. I'll do introductions and a quick film briefing. If you did see the film, great. It is an incredible film. And if you didn't, we highly recommend watching it later, but we will fill you in here.
Join the meeting.
And then we'll go over the problem and the solution. The compost solution. New York State is leading the charge. It starts in the schools. What's happening in your community, and we've got representatives from Bethlehem, Albany, Troy, and Schenectady, and then we'll have the Q&A session. So again, I'm Morgan Talbot, co-owner of Food Scraps 360, and I'll be doing introductions in the compost solution. Megan Popkin, she is representing the Zero Waste.
Join the meeting.
She'll be doing the problem and the solution. Then our keynotes for tonight, we have Christine Ellsworth with the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, and she'll be explaining how New York State is one among the few leading the charge in the US, so that's awesome. She's there with the International Compost Awareness Week poster, which was a really great poster that was put out this year, and she can talk more about that. And Mark Warford, he's vice principal of Bethlehem Middle School, and he'll be explaining everything he's doing there with the middle school and how it really starts in the schools. And then as far as community representation, we've got Dan Likas-Rain, Bethlehem Recycling Coordinator, Sunny Von Tiedemann, Recycling Specialist of Albany, Monica Kurzajewski, and she's filling in for the recycling coordinator of Troy. She's the deputy mayor of Troy. We're very happy to have her. And Heather Ipsum, innovation and performance specialist of Schenectady. I'll give some brief bios before some of the speakers, just because it's nice to get to know a little bit more about them, but otherwise complete bios will be included at the end when we send out the slides. So we'll jump right in. Quick film briefing. The film was called Kiss the Ground. Basically what it says is we are destroying our soils, plain and simple. We, according to scientists, we only have 60 harvests left on the planet, which is not a good thing. Our soils are—
Wendy? Join the meeting.
Our soils are supposed to be rich and full of life, and with the processes that we've been doing for far too many years now, we are destroying it, and it's turning to dust, essentially, is what the movie was saying. So in one single handful of soil, there should be more microorganisms than the number of humans who have ever lived on this planet combined. That's in one handful of soil. I thought that was pretty incredible, and that came from the film. The problem is really that tilling the soil, tilling the ground, destroys and disrupts the ecosystems in the soil. Using pesticides and fertilizers kill off some of the pests in the soils that also kind of destroy that ecosystem in the ground. And then growing one crop only it also kills the ecosystem. You need that full balance, so you need that variety in the soil in order to have healthy soils. So the solution, as the film presented, is regenerative farming. which is really doing none of those things above there, listed above there. And it also includes composting. So back to the agenda, the problem and the solution. I'll go ahead and let Megan.
Nicholas Klemchek.
Join the meeting.
I don't know if you guys are hearing that, but I'm hearing whenever somebody's joining the meeting. I'll go ahead and let Megan get started on the problem.
All right, thank you very much, Morgan. Again, my name is Megan Popkin, and I am a volunteer with Zero Waste Capital District, and we're very excited to co-sponsor this program this evening. So Zero Waste Capital District is an alliance of volunteers here in the Capital District committed to outreach and education on the issues of reducing waste. And so we have a lot of exciting projects going on, from, food waste with things like this. We've also got projects around glass recycling, all sorts of different things. So we would love for you to join us and get involved after the program tonight if you would like. You can see our contact information up here. You can get in touch with us on our website, email. There's also a contact form that if you fill that out, we can add you to our email list, and I'll post these links in the chat once I'm done speaking as well. And I'll also just add that Zero Waste Capital District is also part of the City of Albany Sustainability Advisory Committee. So you can get involved and attend and watch those meetings as well if you would like. And so now getting into the problem that we're all here to discuss tonight. Up to 40% of all food that is grown, processed, and transported in the United States is wasted. And so that's what we're all here to learn more about, what the film talked a lot about, and how we can all be part of the solution. And so the impact with this, if we want to go to the next slide, yes, thank you. So the impact of food waste, so up to 40% is wasted. And throwing food into the landfill, it wastes more than just that food. It wastes the energy, water, money, labor that all went into creating that food, and the nutrients in that food is lost. And so one thing you may find surprising, or maybe that you learned watching Kiss the Ground, is that food does not break down in landfills. If you go to a landfill, you can find a banana peel that's been there for years and years and years. It actually does not break down because it does not have access to air and sunlight that it needs. And it actually generates methane gas, which is a very potent greenhouse gas contributing to climate change. And so if food waste was a country, it would be the third largest greenhouse gas emitter. And this Project Drawdown, which is a great project around ways to draw carbon out of the atmosphere. Out of 100 things, they said that out of 100 things you can do to reduce carbon in the atmosphere and help stop climate change, preventing food waste is number 3. And so then where is all this food waste generated? So you can see on the chart here that it's generated in a lot of different areas: food or farms, grocery stores, restaurants. But the largest percentage, 43%, is actually generated at home. And rather be like disappointed by that, oh my gosh, that's so tough. I choose to be empowered by that, because that means we can all make a difference. We all have a home where we consume food. And so all of us as individuals can really make an impact and work towards solving this problem by reducing the food waste in our homes. So how do we do this? So we talk about reducing food waste around 3 different areas. We talk about it at the store, at home, and at the curb. And at the store is about preparing for your shopping trip, and then shopping intentionally when you're there to only buy foods that you know that you and your family will eat. And then when you get it home, making sure that you're eating all the food throughout the course of the week, and that you're storing it properly and researching proper storage methods. And then finally, before you throw it away, see if you can donate the food or compost it, which we'll be talking a lot about. And if you're interested in more tips and tricks around, these different ways to reduce waste, on the Zero Waste Capital District YouTube page, we have a full video going into lots of specifics on these areas, and I'll post that as well. And so then finally, we just want to go over a few composting options that we like to promote in the Capital Region. So of course you can compost at home. And if you're looking for a compost mentor to help you get started, you can reach out to Zero Waste Capital District and we'll help you set you up with a mentor. And then you can see here throughout the Capital Region, there are lots of places that you can drop off compost for free. So if you want to check out, this slide, depending on where you live, there's different areas where you can just, take your food scraps and drop it off for them to turn into compost. But if you're like me and you prefer the convenience of having somebody come and pick up your food scraps every couple weeks, then you can go to and look into a paid pickup option. And with that, I am going to turn it over to Morgan, who's going to tell us more about these services.
Thank you, Megan. So yes, we are one of 3 smaller companies in the area. We service for food scraps collection at your curbside. We service Albany, Bethlehem, Schenectady, Rensselaer, and Troy, both residential and commercial businesses as well. Then there's the Raddick Center, which if you haven't checked out their facility, they're in the south end, I believe, of Albany. And they have a big program around education for especially lower income families on sustainable living. So decreasing your waste, using your food waste to make compost, for your home garden, to feed your family. So especially helpful for lower income families where if they can produce it themselves, then the better. And then they also do some curbside collection as well via e-bikes, and they focus primarily in Center Square area and surrounds. And then Loving Earth Compost is another, and they're up more in the Saratoga Springs area. So let's see. So what is composting? A lot of people hear the word gets thrown around, but a lot of people don't actually know what it is. It is the decomposing of organic matter in the presence of, by microorganisms, in the presence of oxygen, to a point where it can be safely stored, handled, and applied, returned, or recycled, as I like to say, back into the environment. And then what is compost? Compost is the result of composting. It's this beautiful, rich, nutrient-filled, dirt-like material that enriches our soils, nourishes growth. It provides essential nutrients for plant growth, eliminates the needs for fertilizers and pesticides because it is a fertilizer. It improves soil structure, so sandy and clay structure soils can easily hold the correct amount of moisture and nutrients and air. And because of that, it saves water. It's an essential part of reducing your household waste, as Megan explained. So we produce a ton of waste. A lot of that is food scraps and food waste, and you're literally recycling it back into the earth. So it's a beautiful thing. Why compost? At Food Scraps 360, we have narrowed it down to 4 main reasons why we recommend composting. 1, our landfills are filling up. Across the US, landfills are filling up. Our Albany landfill is already on borrowed time. They keep extending and extending their permits. And I think they only have a couple of years left. The thing is, when food and stuff does not biodegrade, it does not break down in the landfill. So they just keep squeezing it in and squeezing it in and squeezing it in, which is why it doesn't break down, because there's no oxygen or microorganisms or light to help things decompose. And so because of that, it just stays there for some items stay in there for centuries, and some items stay in there forever. And so we're going to be running out of space. I lived in Austria back in 2004, and I remember them separating out their organic waste. And it was just such a normal process for them that I didn't really think twice about it. Until recently, when I went and did the research and found out that the reason is because they realized that they were running out of space in their landfills. So they made it mandatory much sooner than we are. We're now approaching that wave. And it was because they were running out of space. And so it's been mandatory there now. It's been mandatory there for 30 years. So it's about time we jump on board with this. And you know, when there's a situation like this where we're starting to run out of space, it's more reason to. So according to the EPA, a great majority of our landfills are made up of compostable materials. So if we do compost these materials instead of sending them to the landfill, we really could be diverting up to 63% of our trash from the landfills. And then you add in recyclables, bottles, cans, paper, and we're up to 88.2% that could be diverted from the landfill. So that really, really helps the problem from the previous slide. Number two, our food, like I said, does not belong in the landfills. It does not break down. Nothing decomposes in the landfill. And food is the largest single source of waste in the US. More food ends up in landfills than plastic or paper. I thought that was pretty surprising. Why compost? Number three, food in the landfill is horrible for the environment. So not only does it not break down, but it just rots and generates and releases methane gas into the atmosphere, which is an extremely potent greenhouse gas and a major contributor to climate change. And it also contributes heavily to groundwater pollution that impacts the water sources to our communities. And then the last thing is it's great for the environment to compost. It's literally recycling our food back into the earth. It returns those billions of microorganisms and nutrients back into the earth, improving the ecosystems. It reduces the methane gas. It eliminates the needs for chemicals and fertilizers. And it promotes higher yields of crops, of agricultural crops. So, and better food as well, more nutritious food. But don't take my word for it. The film Kiss the Ground, their producers put together a 6-minute video that I think is great. And I wanted to share it with you, and it's called The Compost Story.
Have you ever looked at a banana peel and wondered, is that it?
All that time spent nurturing the banana, and now it's just waste?
Could this humble peel serve a greater purpose?
Currently, in the US, over 60 billion pounds of mineral-rich food material go to landfills each year.
Imagine if we diverted those billions of pounds from the landfill and turned them into compost.
Imagine our cities, vacant lots converted into food forests. Imagine abundance everywhere.
And it can help reverse climate change.
But most likely, it won't. Why? Because we're insane.
We define waste as anything unused, unproductive, or not properly utilized.
But waste is a human invention. We're the only creatures on Earth who don't live a zero waste existence.
Yep, thanks to trillions of microbes that are in and around everything, including us.
Anything that lives gets repurposed and contributes to the growth of new life.
Some 500 million years ago, these microbes brought plants onto the land.
The microbes provided minerals and water in exchange for carbon sugars produced by the plants through photosynthesis.
This resulted in a terrestrial explosion of life.
More life meant more excretions and deaths, which meant more food and nutrients for decomposers, and all soil life, known as the soil food web.
This increased the abundance and biodiversity of ecosystems and turned barren land into fertile soil.
Today, Composting mimics this natural upcycling process, transforming combinations of organic material into life-filled, nutrient-available organic matter.
Compost isn't just mulch, manure, or food waste on its own, nor does it stink. Compost has the aroma of the forest floor after a rain.
It also has superpowers. Compost can enhance food nutrition, increase crop yield, and strengthen plants' immune systems, all while increasing the soil's water-holding capacity. And compost stimulates plant growth by bringing in microbial life, nutrients, and water-retaining humus to depleted soils.
More plant growth takes even more carbon out of the atmosphere. Microbes feed plants. Plants feed microbes, and the self-regenerating soil carbon pump cycles on, building soil.
Compost is a regenerative substance. It isn't just fertilizer. It's an essential microbial source, a probiotic for the land beneath our feet.
Now, while we've made some great progress recycling paper and even composting yard trimmings, currently in the US, over 50% of trash going to landfills is food scraps, paper, yard trimmings, and wood, all compostable materials. We are throwing away the very building blocks of life. Only 5% of our food scraps get composted. 5%. That means over 60 billion pounds of mineral-rich food material, much still fully edible. The weight of 4.5 great Egyptian pyramids go to landfills each year, and there it rots, creating methane gas, a greenhouse gas up to 86 times more potent than CO2. And it's not just food. Grass, leaves, and clippings, all designed by nature to fall back to the ground and increase fertility, are shipped miles to landfill. Now that's insane. Some city governments are finally stepping up by providing green bins to make composting more available, but too often they're misused. Toxic material, trash, is being mixed with the stuff we grow our food in. Just stop it! Don't put toxins or non-organics in that bin, please! Our current agricultural system robs our soils of carbon and biology, replacing them with chemicals, leading to more degeneration and desertification. We've broken the regenerative loop of life. It's crazy.
Without soil, life on land as we know it is impossible. And soil without life, it's just dust.
If the soil is being stripped of its life-giving qualities, what can help save our future? Properly made compost. The soil would be spongy again, retaining water and restoring our underground water supplies.
Fertile farms producing tastier and more nutritious food and no longer covered in toxic chemicals.
Imagine a farm to table to compost to farm system.
This is the regenerative system our future depends on. And doing it at home is easier than you think. You can at home? Use your green bin. If you for some reason don't have a green bin, request one from your city. Or find a neighbor or community garden who can use your compostables.
Cities like San Francisco, Los Angeles, St. Louis, and my hometown, New York, are leading the charge. Thank you.
Countries from Haiti to Australia are using compost to address food security and desertification.
Schools, hospitals, and restaurants are waking up to composting their food scraps.
Scientists and compost manufacturers are improving methods, making our superhero even more powerful.
Yes! Life isn't over for the humble peel. Along with other organic material, it can help restore fertility to our soil, regenerate our food systems, clean our water.
And it can help reverse climate change. Really.
Okay, so what can you do?
Do all you can to support composting.
If we're to keep the planet habitable, human beings must participate in regeneration.
Each of us can play a role to help regenerate our planet simply by composting.
The cycle of this can make or break us. You choose.
So I wanted to give you my version first because it was a little theirs was a little more scientific. And so I thought maybe mine could be a sort of precursor to that to help whet the palate. But really interesting. And the film itself goes into more detail. And it's very encouraging. Sometimes you're left watching these things and it can feel discouraging, but it was the film actually that brought me to where I am.
Have you ever looked at a banana peel and
is-
wondered?
How do I move on from here? And that is as one of the co-owners of Food Scraps 360. So as I said, we are a organics and food scraps collection company servicing residential and commercial customers in the Capital District. We are at nearly 200 customers and growing. And our mission is to educate and to make it as easy as possible for people to compost. And that is because we fully feel that it is important. And as you saw in the video, they do too. So I'll just really quickly go through this. We make it as easy as 1, 2, 3, collect your food scraps, put your curb on the bin, and then we partner with the city of, the town of Bethlehem's composting facility. And it's a commercial composting facility where we are the only company providing them with food scraps. And then they process it and turn the food scraps into this beautiful, rich compost that they bag. And then we actually give our customers 1 free bag of compost every growing season, and we deliver it to their door. And on our website, they get a customer portal where they can purchase then greatly discounted bags of compost as well, which we continue to deliver right to their door. There's some different sizing options and pricing options and more discounts available on the website. And so that is how it works with us. And we will go on from there. So focusing on the New York State leading the charge in the film, they did say that one gentleman said he was from New York and he was proud of New York, and so are we. So across the US, states are now starting to take this very seriously, and we are very proud and fortunate that New York is one of them. Here to give an overview of the new law that New York State has put into effect, goes into effect this year. And to represent the Department of Environmental Conservation is Christine Ellsworth. So I'll turn it over to you, Christine.
Hi, everyone. Just gonna screen share quickly. So yeah, my goal for tonight is really just to kind of set the scene for what we're doing at the state level, and then you'll touch base with a bunch of the local representatives just to see how the action is trickling down. So as was mentioned, I'm with DEC, New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, in the Organics Reduction and Recycling section. I'm based out of Albany. I live in Albany. I'm right downtown in the central office. Our section is made up of 6 individuals, and we really work to regulate and promote the diversion of organics from disposal to beneficial uses. So we're looking at food waste, yard waste, biosolids, really anything that can break down. We're trying to get it away from disposal and to recycle it. And so I always describe that our work can fall into 4 main pillars. The first being regulatory oversight. Our background is really to regulate composting facilities, anaerobic digesters, any place that's recycling food scraps or other types of organics. We get involved in legislation. I'll be talking about the New York State Food Donation and Food Scraps Recycling Law. And then we develop funding programs to help municipalities implement different types of projects that encourage recycling of organics, and then also any outreach and education that we can do. So some of the stuff that I had in the beginning of my slideshow here was already covered. So where is our food waste coming from? As was talked about, it's coming from all different types of sectors, from industrial all the way to our own homes. It's not coming from any one part. It's really coming from the whole system, starting at the farming to harvesting, processing, distributing it, consumption, buying it from the store, and every which place you look. So right now, as was also mentioned, we're really looking at a dominantly linear system. And when things go to the landfills, it's breaking down in conditions where there's no oxygen. So it's releasing methane, as was discussed, and methane is much stronger of a greenhouse gas over carbon dioxide. When things break down in a compost pile, because there's air present, they're releasing carbon dioxide. So that's kind of the difference between the two when we talk about aerobic and anaerobic. So if we're not looking at linear systems, we're looking to promote circular systems. And so really what that is looking at is we want to keep all of the materials, or the waste as people would say, in the system. So nothing's really ever considered a waste because it's always just a material for the next step in the process. And so looking at it from the DEC perspective, if we're not going to the landfill, what are we looking at? So that's wasted food reduction, food donation, animal feed, which is an item that we both regulate, as well as Department of Agriculture, anaerobic digestion, composting, and land application, and any other type of unique technologies that are popping up these days. We're going to be focusing on composting. We've already discussed what composting is. So then looking at more of the organics recycling community in New York State, specifically composting, our mission as a section is to really build a strong organics recycling network at all levels. I'm going to kind of go through what those different levels are, but that can be as basic as a compost pile in your backyard, community composting, composting on farms, anaerobic digesters on farms, taking breads, brewery grain, and sending that to animal feed. Micro haulers such as Food Scraps 360s, picking up from residents as well as small entities, our large haulers who are servicing our large grocery stores, chain restaurants, etc. And then anyone that kind of falls in between all of those categories, as well as any medium and large size organics recycling operations. And the ultimate goal is to really build a web of solutions, so that way, every which way you look at it, there's always someone that can be serviced by the opportunity that's in the community. So looking at composting across New York State, these are the facilities that we regulate. Composting is regulated by DEC, and the regulation level can be exempt, registered, or permitted. And that depends on the type of activity that you're doing, the quantity of material that you're taking, and the type of material that you're taking. So of these dots that are on the map, about 50 of them are currently accepting food scraps to compost them. And as I mentioned before, composting is happening at every level. So you'll see up in the North Country, there's not any blue dots up there, but just because there isn't blue dots doesn't mean people aren't composting in their backyards or doing it at a community level that's exempt from our regulations. Food scraps drop-off spots are another thing that have been talked about. They're not just here in the Capital District, they're across the state. It's been really beautiful to see this map grow over the past 3 years. 3 years ago, this map would have been completely empty pretty much. And so there's been a ton of growth. This is a way that a lot of communities are starting to get involved in composting. It's just an easy way also to touch base with residents in a community and start to explain to them why food waste is important. Another map that would have been empty 3 years ago is our residential food scraps collection services in New York State. Once again, 3 years ago would have been completely empty. We're seeing a lot of growth and a lot of interest in this industry. And it's another great option to involve residents and smaller businesses in the communities. So looking to the future, really looking to ride the organics wave into the future. There's a lot going on at the state level that will be trickling down into communities in the coming years. I'll be touching on the New York State food donation and food scraps recycling law. Another one is where we are currently revising the New York State Solid Waste Management Plan. This is a plan that guides municipalities and how we should be handling our solid waste. And within this plan, there are recommendations, definitely more pushing towards recycling goals, organics, recycling goals as well. So just another place to push composting and managing food scraps appropriately. And the other one that was also most recently passed was the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act. We kind of shorthand call it the climate law. But this is really a huge deal for New York State, and that it's setting a lot of carbon emission goals that we're supposed to be hitting in the coming years, and in the kind of the longer frame as well. But what was important was when they, passed this law, they broke up in different advisory panels, and one of them was a waste advisory panel, which means that we're looking to really analyze our waste at the state level. And so this was a group of individuals who are well into the waste industry, including those in the organics recycling industry. And so through this as well, they're also going to be pushing forward organics recycling recommendations, which we really like to see. So getting into the food donation and food scraps recycling law here. In 2019, we passed this law, and it will require businesses that generate more than 2 tons of wasted food per week to donate excess edible food to the maximum extent practicable, and to recycle any remaining food scraps if they're within 25 miles of a food scraps recycler. So this law itself is going to become effective January 1st of 2022, so in about 6 months from now. I'm going to very briefly go over it today, but if you are interested in this, feel free to email me. We also recently held a webinar on this when we really, got into depth on the law and everything that's expected out of it. So I put a link there. I know Morgan said she was going to be sharing these afterwards. So the big thing that we kind of just released yesterday actually was our list of designated food scraps generators. So these are businesses that have to comply with the law. Once again, these are big businesses, those that are generating more than 2 tons per week. To come up to this list, we came up with different types of metrics that equated employee counts to minimum waste generated. So for example, grocery stores, they have to have at least 69 employees to generate roughly 2 tons of wasted food per week. So we went through all these different metrics and we identified various businesses across the state that have to comply. So you can kind of see the breakdown here. So altogether, we have 909 businesses of our main generator group here. In my next slide, I'll show some other types of generators we have. You'll notice that all 909 of those have to donate. And then of that 909, 377 have to recycle. And so that recycling requirement was based on if a composting facility was nearby and if that facility had enough excess capacity for them to take food scraps from new businesses. Then we kind of have this other group of generators, including amusement parks, casinos, malls, military bases, sporting venues, and wholesale and distribution. You'll notice that all of them are also required to donate, and none of them right now are required to do the recycling bit. And that's because we didn't have metrics that we felt could equate to how much waste they're potentially generating at the site. So we will be working more closely with them in the coming years to try and figure out some of those waste generation metrics. So a really important part, and I'm not sure where everyone's coming from on this call, if you're just a member of the public or if you're involved in local communities, but the local entities can really play an important role in terms of working to highlight the law, but also just to grow organics recycling and composting in your own community. So first is general education on reducing food waste at home and home composting. Reducing food waste at home is more than just thinking about what you're throwing out, but it's also a way that you can save money, protect the environment, and other benefits. Developing food scraps recycling programs, drop-off spots, working food scraps into yard waste composting facility in your community, composting at community gardens. I know there's a ton of community gardens across the Capital District, but starting, small composting sites there is a great option. And also just building resource hubs like Zero Waste Capital District has done, kind of highlighting all the opportunities that can be in a community. And then working to facilitate conversations between stakeholders, whether it's between members of the public or just getting different local representatives in the same room to discuss a topic. And so benefits of the Capital District that I see for rethinking food waste, and I put food waste in quotes because we never want to think of anything as waste. Wholesome edible food is redirected to the food insecure, which is always a really great benefit. Rather than seeing it composted or recycled, we would love to see edible food actually be consumed because that's why it was grown to begin with. It's also an opportunity to engage community to think about their food, where it comes from and where it's going. And food is grown, eaten, and recycled right in your own backyard. Composting utilizes excess yard debris that you can find. It's a great opportunity to train individuals on green business opportunities and skills. And also, as was mentioned, it conserves existing landfill space. So that's everything I have. My email is up there if anyone would ever like to email me about any questions we don't get to today. And I'm going to stop there because I know we are running short on time. Thank you. Oh, Morgan, you're on mute.
Thank you. So now we will move to It Starts in the Schools. Mark Warford, he's Vice Principal of, and sorry, I was saying thank you, Christine, but I was on mute. So It Starts in the Schools. Mark Warford, he's Vice Principal for Bethlehem Middle School. He's a resident of the town of Delmar and serves as the Assistant Principal and leader of the Green Team at the Bethlehem Central School District, and is currently President of the Board of the Delmar Farmers Market. Mark was a teacher in the Guilderland School District, where he earned the News Channel 13 Educator of the Week and Walmart Teacher of the Year awards. He has helped both the East Greenbush School District and the Bethlehem School District earn the Governor's Waste Reduction and Recycling Awards. And he earned the Bethlehem Middle School and U.S. Education Department's first Green Ribbon School designation. Last year, he was named the U.S. Education Department's, last year he was named the New York State Assistant Principal of the Year by SANUS. And Mark is an avid gardener and landscaper and supporter of all things green. And just one more thing. So I wanted to say that what Christine was saying was really on a state level. And as I said, we are very fortunate that New York State as a whole supports this environmental initiative. But how can we all make a difference individually? One man has done that, and that is Mark Warford. And I will let him go into detail about how. But our children are our future, and school is where we educate. And we feel that it is very important that we start there. And the impact that we can have on our communities when our students take this new knowledge home is truly a great one. So I'll let Mark go ahead and take it from here.
Right, Morgan, thank you. And thank you for, for Food Scraps 360 Zero Waste for putting this on. So this is a great event. I watched the movie from with plastics. And whenever I watch a documentary that deals with environmental issue, I walk away kind of exasperated. Like, how did we get to this point where we're so far removed from nature that we make all these problems? But when I walked away from this movie, I walked away feeling like, you know what, this is very doable. This is doable stuff that makes sense to anyone that's willing to listen. And so that's the goal. The goal of education is to get kids to understand the role they play in the overall environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to share a PowerPoint. And what the PowerPoint does is it really just highlights what the Bethlehem School District is doing to educate students about their footprint on the planet. So it doesn't just deal with agriculture and food, it deals with the totality of their footprint on the planet. But a big piece of this is agriculture and compost. So let me see, we ran through this before on how to share my screen. So let's see if I'm usually do Google here. Nope, that wasn't it. Hold on. Where are we? There we go. Okay. All right. Am I in? Good. All right. So in the Bethlehem School District, we have a green team that comprises a representative from every single person and a staff member in each building. Huge environmental problems. I know I'm preaching to the choir here, but pretty much everywhere we come into contact with our environment, we have issues. And it's a lot to sort out, especially if you're an elementary school kid or if you're a middle school kid. How am I supposed to solve the environmental problems that exist today? So the question we ask them is, are you conscious of what you consume? Are you aware of what you use each day? Every single day we make choices. And so we broke it into 3 different choices: garbage you make, energy you use, and the food that you eat. And then there's environmental education that makes the 4 legs of the Green Team program. So, but the bottom line is it's real easy to talk about what sustainability looks like. And more importantly, we want to show kids, what does it look like? So how do we model what sustainability looks like? So I'm going to run through it really quickly. Let me just shut this door here. When I'm on a computer, I'm very loud. My wife shushes me. So she's like, close the door, Mark. There we go. So garbage choices, all right? In our district, across the district, we recycle our paper, cardboard, our co-mingled. There's recycling containers throughout every building in the district. We use metal flatware and reusable trays, so there are no styrofoam or plastic that goes into garbage. Plastic flatware is crazy. It's completely counterintuitive to what we're trying to teach kids. Why would we throw away thousands of pieces of plastic flatware that go into a garbage can, go into a landfill, when we can simply use recyclable, reusable metal flatware that goes every presenter I've heard so far tonight, there's been a circle in their presentation because that's what we want. We want a closed loop. So that's what the metal flatware. A dishwasher comes out clean, goes in the cafeteria, goes in the dishwasher, comes out clean, no garbage can. Kids understand that. All right. We have recycling stations in our cafeteria so that students can sort out their different food waste, the liquids, glass, plastic, and metal, in their garbage to decrease the garbage that we make. We've eliminated styrofoam and plastic straws, so we no longer hand those out or use those in our cafeteria. So that's one of the Judith Inc.'s big plastic trifecta. Those are 2 of the 3 there. One of the things we do is we compost in all of our schools in the district. So we have totes that are available, and we've really partnered with our custodial staff to collect that food waste each day after lunch that then gets composted. What you see on the right is actually, it's called an earth tub unit. So it's a composting vessel that has a spinning top to it with a auger, and we put our food waste in there. And this is pretty powerful because basically we take this and we turn it into that. And so kids go outside, we have kids go out and they actually see how does the compost process work. And it's incredible. They'll say, huh, I didn't know that. So, educating them on how it actually works, as well as the benefits that many people have talked about now, is the first step to get them to move in the right direction. So there's our loop again. The compost goes in the school garden, which grows food, which goes in the cafeteria, which goes into compost, which goes in the garden, and around we go. So we recycle all of our markers. A lot of us had chalkboards when we were growing up. Chalkboards no longer exist. It's all markers and whiteboards. So we recycle our markers. We have plastic bag recycling stations in all of our buildings, so people can recycle their plastic bags that typically wouldn't get recycled, and then we drop those off. And then we also recycle our batteries, all of our toner cartridges, and our electronics. So in the Bethlehem schools, every school in the district is currently recycling our cardboard, our paper, our commingled toner, batteries, electronics. We're composting metal flatware and utensils. So the district is really trying to model what sustainability looks like in terms of the garbage. In terms of the food that we eat, every school in our district has a small garden, and they're all in different phases. A lot of times at the elementary level, the parents will assist and they help, and their kids grow up and they kind of move out of that garden, and the new parents come in. So a lot of the elementary gardens are in flux and moving. The largest garden in the district would be at the middle school, and there's 2 large sections to it. One section of the middle school has raised beds. These are made of 100% recycled plastic lumber. So it's 20% recycled card dashboards and 80% recycled bottles. That's what the boards are made out of. And then on the opposite side of the garden, we have the large growing area where we'll grow crops that will grow for the full season, like potatoes, butternut squash, corn, tomatoes. In the large growing area, we put in-ground water lines that are run on a drip line system with a timer. So everything, we only use the water that we need to grow the food. And it's incredible how much you can conserve water when they're on a drip line system with a timer. So we grow thousands of pounds of food in our garden. Our 7th graders all go through the garden and get a presentation. We have large display boards that talk about the difference between conventional agriculture that's dependent upon chemicals and organic agriculture, and how you meet the needs of the plants, food, bugs, weeds, water management. And they go through and they tour and they use food from the garden in their FACS class. They cook. We have garden club. That's how our garden really operates. 2 days a week after school, kids stay after. And we have a great crew of community garden members that come out over the summer every Tuesday night. We just had a great session last night and got a lot done. So that's how we maintain the school gardens, is between the club and the community. We use a lot of our food in the cafeteria. Around America Recycles Day, it's usually also first week in October is New York State Ag and Markets Farm to You Fest. So they really focus on local agriculture. So that's a great time for us to kind of celebrate and use our food. We donate over 1,000 pounds of food a year. And then when the kids also get to sell it at the farmer's market. So they get to use their communication skills and their math skills and kind of show off the work that they've done to grow the food. So that's a really great connection for our school garden. And all of our compost comes from the farm right across from the high school, Sunnyside Farm. If you go to Eagle Elementary, you know the smell of that compost, or the high school. So that's where we get our nutrients from. In the fall, we do a Salads for Kids Day, where we make fresh organic salads using all of the vegetables we grow in school, and we give it to the students free of charge, and it's all in compostable bowls. So the whole exercise that day is about reducing waste, eating locally, organically grown food, and composting. So it's a great way to kind of tie it all together. And it's incredible. We get like, I don't know, probably 20, 30 parents that come in and they're ecstatic because their kids are eating vegetables and they actually eat it. They eat all the food because it's, you know, you pick fresh lettuce and green beans and carrots and then you serve it that day. You know, it's incredible. So we also partner we partner with the Garden Bistro local restaurant. Every Tuesday in October, they do a BC Schools Night. So all of the items in red on this menu here are vegetables that were grown in our school gardens. So it's a great way to kind of some PR for the garden out in the community. And also it's a kickback for the garden club. So it's a fundraiser. In our food service department, Alyssa Eisner is our food service director. She's awesome. Always looking for, you know, less meat products if possible, more local, more sustainably grown foods that we can introduce to the students. All right. And then the final piece is just the energy that we use. So it's the garbage that we make, the food that we eat, and then the energy we use. Like Morgan mentioned, we were recipients of the Green Ribbon Award. We're also, many of our buildings are Energy Star for the energy reduction. We recently just put in a 2.1 megawatt solar photovoltaic system. So actually about 85% of our entire district's electricity now comes from solar power. So that's a great way to talk to kids about modeling what the future should look like, renewable green energy. We had a lot of performance contracts go through. We had weather sealing, sealed up the building. We did LED lighting. We send messages to teachers during the breaks. If you're going to go home for Christmas, hey, make sure you shut off your computer. Make sure you unplug any coffee maker or any appliances you have. And then we have some automatic shutdowns where heaters and things will turn off automatically so that we can save energy. That's how we got that energy saving status. And then just a few of the environmental programs that we do. We have a lab school at our high school. It's a school within a school, and they go out every America Recycles Day to each elementary school and do a presentation during lunch, which is wonderful because you don't have to have a whole separate assembly pulled together that cuts into teaching time. Every kid eats lunch every day. So the kids go into the lunchroom and they'll do a 5 to 7 minute presentation about recycling and composting and the benefits of it. And the other great thing too is they get to do it 5 times. So they get really good at it by the 4th and 5th time. But it's so the lab school enjoys it, and the kids really enjoy having the high school mentors come down and go through the environmental benefits of what we do. We have a couple recycling events. Dan Rain, the town recycling coordinator, who's on our panel tonight. We have partnered with Dan for years to hold these events. One on America Recycles Day in November and another one on Earth Day in April. So a couple times a year. You know, and also, so it's a great community event, and students love to participate, and they get community service hours for doing it. We do a litterless lunch week at Earth Week. So recycling is great, but during Earth Week, if you bring a lunch that makes 0 garbage, reusable water bottle, reusable napkin, reusable lunchbox, you get a certificate, or you get your name. It's put in for a drawing for some really cool prizes at the end of the week. So it's simple stuff, but again, a way to highlight the garbage that we make and decreasing our footprint on the planet. So that's one of the things we do each year. And we also work with the Pine Harbor Arboretum, where our high schoolers take elementary school kids out there and walk them through. So there's lots of stuff going on in the district with the green team, and it's all really designed to help kids understand that they really are the future of the planet, and every choice we make absolutely makes a difference. So, and we have actually Ravenna Queens School District is coming out tomorrow to check out our garden and talk a little bit about our green programs. So the goal is to just keep it moving forward. So very happy to be here. Morgan, thank you for asking me.
Thank you, Mark, so much. So I went in and met with Mark, and he gave me this presentation, and I was floored, and I'm floored again. It is incredible, cute. It is incredible what we're doing now as a state, on a state level, and it is so important that we have that that backing. And then all the way down to a school level and one man, what he is able to.
Well, lots of people.
It's not just you, but it definitely takes somebody leading the charge. And I think you are doing that in so many ways, Mark. So we appreciate you. And clearly there is just so much going on. And I wanted to highlight that. We wanted to highlight that so that maybe more schools in the area can start to implement these same things, because it is truly incredible what you guys are doing. And that's on a school level. And now we will move to the communities. And if I can find how to share my screen.
Do we have any time to take a couple of the questions in the chat, Morgan?
I'd prefer to wait to the end because we are pushing a little bit. So if it's okay, maybe Mark, if you can take a look at the questions in the chat, and if any can be answered by typing, and otherwise we can definitely address some of them at the end. But I just want to make sure we give people time.
Yep.
Look at that beautiful picture of Mark. All right, so next, what's happening in your community? Dan Rain, he is the recycling coordinator. Oh, there he is. The recycling coordinator for the town of Bethlehem in Albany County. He also serves as the current vice president and Region 4 board representative for NYSAR 3, the New York State Association for Reduction, Reuse, and Recycling, chairing the organization's Reclothe New York, Textile Recovery Campaign, and Textile Committee. He was honored in 2016 with the NYSAR 3 Recycling Leadership Award and shared the honor of accepting an EPA Environmental Champion Award in 2015 on behalf of the Reclothe New York campaign and NYSAR 3 for the team's accomplishments. He has 25-year background in environmental education and outreach. He is proud of the town of Bethlehem's composting program and finds joy working with people of all ages on reuse, recycling, composting, and other sustainability issues. Dan?
Thank you, Morgan. Good evening. Thanks to the Zero Waste Capital District and Food Scraps 360 for putting on this important event and for including me. It's an honor to follow Mark Warford's presentation. As you can probably tell from his presentation, what the Bethlehem schools through the Green Team and his leadership are accomplishing is pretty amazing. It really serves as a model for what school districts throughout the state and the country can be doing. I know that Mark has already shared that model with other school districts willingly in a lot of ways, including presenting at various conferences. But I saw in the chat, people were asking about, how can they learn for their school districts from Mark and the Bethlehem Schools Green Team. But one of the things that they're great about is sharing what they've learned with others. So, so I'm going to share my screen a little bit here. So we've got tonight's wonderful event. Just a quick local stat to put it in perspective for what we're dealing with in our region. About 30% of what's going to the landfill right now, for those who are not composting, is compostable, whether it's food scraps or compostable paper that really is too soiled to be recyclable. This is from an Albany landfill waste characterization field study a few years back. So the town of Bethlehem has had a comprehensive yard waste composting program for over 25 years. Just last year alone, one of the biggest years on record, if not the biggest year, we brought in about 80,000 cubic yards of brush, yard trimmings, and leaves. Just to give you an idea about what 80,000 cubic yards of yard waste looks like, you can either picture 3 football fields filled 12.5 feet deep with leaves, branches, grass clippings, hedge clippings, that sort of thing, or 2 million cubic feet. And a cubic foot is about the size of a basketball. So we're talking about a lot of material. But as all the other presenters have focused on, food scraps is an important piece of the puzzle, and that was missing for a lot of years. Actually, many decades ago in the town of Bethlehem, they used to pick up food scraps. They called it wet garbage at that point. And they brought it to a pig farm. That's not really how things are done anymore. Post-consumer food waste, especially meat, I don't believe is supposed to go to feed animals, but at least in the modern times here, we're focusing on a way to compost it. So back in 2016, we started our efforts with a pilot program. In 2017, we started accepting limited quantities of food scraps from Food Scraps 360's precursor, the previous company, as well as a larger company, a larger hauler, to test what we call the ASP, or aerated static pile method of composting. And I will get to some more specifics on that in a minute. And then in 2018, we started and continues through the present, education and resources to support backyard composting. That includes a backyard composter and rain barrel annual truckload sale in the spring. People pre-order them online. That's been open. So this is our 4th year. It's been open to anybody in the area who wants to travel to the town to pick them up. So it's a 50% off sale basically without any shipping, because you come to pick it up. And we've had a lot of participation. And last year and this year, the city of Troy partnered with us as well, and we're sharing our truck together. So they're doing the same kind of thing in the city of Troy as well, which it's nice to see it replicated and expanding. I've also offered classes since 2018 through our town parks and rec, backyard composting 101, using compost in your garden, that sort of thing. Free classes open to anybody, not just Bethlehem residents, as another way of supporting backyard composting. And also most years, not during the pandemic, but before that, and hopefully will continue soon, the Cornell Cooperative Extension of Albany County has also helped us at through the backyard composter sale and distribution efforts with having their master gardeners, master composters available to answer questions. And I'm also available by email or phone to help troubleshoot backyard composting tips and tricks and troubleshoot problems. So the aerated static pile method in a nutshell is using perforated pipes at the base of your compost pile and a blower motor. Think bouncy house fan that keeps those inflated, same kind of thing. Larger scale when it's scaled up. This is just our smaller pile that we use for our pilot, showing you the design there. And here's a little bit of a picture of the actual blower motor itself and the manifold where the 4 pipes come off of it. And this is the pile that's over that. You always cover the food scraps pile with, they call a biofilter layer, which is basically finished compost, to keep any odors as well as keep emissions kind of contained within that pile. The goal is that the air is going to circulate within the pile, but it's not really going to leave the pile. Something else to note is that when we're composting food scraps, you're not just making a pile of food scraps. If anybody's done backyard composting, they know that it's a mixture of what they call the greens and the browns. The greens is the nitrogen-rich materials, which is your food scraps or any fresh yard trimmings that you put in there. And then the browns is the more carbon rich materials. And you want a balance of both. But when you're using an aerated static pile method, you're going to want a 2-to-1 or probably 3-to-1 carbon to nitrogen, browns to greens. So yard waste to food scraps mixture. And so adding food scraps composting at a yard waste composting facility is a natural fit because we already have ample supply of yard waste. If there are facilities that are just doing food scraps composting, they have to bring in A lot of times they use wood chips. We actually find that the ground yard waste, before it's fully composted and before it's screened, works really well for our browns, our yard waste mixture to go with the food scraps. So our pilot was very successful. We made some wonderful compost and realized that it was something that we could do as a permanent program. So thanks in large part to a grant from the DEC for equipment, the pipes and the blower motors, and this wonderful trommel screen here, which screens out the big sticks and larger things from the usable compost, and helping pay for the expansion of the paved pad needed to do the composting. We're in the process of finishing our expansion to be able to use this aerated static pile method on a large scale. Right now we're using the turned windrow method, which is basically long piles where we're taking in clean food scraps from Food Scraps 360 from local residents and small businesses, and turning it into wonderful compost. But we're going to be scaling up, hopefully just in time for next year, when all the businesses that need to comply with the new DEC law that Christine told us about will be looking. We hope to have enough capacity to help out at least some of those large producers. And I also wanted to thank the town's supervisor board, and special thanks to the highway superintendent since 2020, Mark Dorsey, who really prioritized the expansion of the facility, the compost facilities, really supported the compost facility in general, but I'm not sure the food scraps composting expansion would have happened without him helping prioritize that for the town. So we have a nice public-private collaboration with those lovely ladies here at Food Scraps 360. We started taking in deliveries in 2019 and up through the present, and we're just growing more every day as they grow. And you can see the wonderful van and the pile. It looks like a lot of paper and stuff, which is true. It's some people use the paper bags for composting. You can see some newspapers, pizza boxes, very clean stuff. I don't know if I'm the only person, but I'm probably one of the only people who gets food scraps photos texted to me a couple times a week or more upon each delivery. I used to be there for every delivery to go through it, but now I trust them to pull out anything that happened to be in there that wasn't supposed to be, but I get a picture texted every day. It's kind of like my my special picture of the day. That's how I roll. And we our newest product, we've had the yard waste compost products for years available loose by the truckload, or people shovel it themselves. We have a screen compost product. We have a leaf compost product. We've got a couple of kinds of wood mulch, and helps build and maintain healthy soils in all of the ways that Kiss the Ground has shown, and Morgan and other people's presentations have shown. But now we also have, for those folks who don't have a pickup truck or don't want large quantities, we have 40-pound, 1 cubic foot, 40-pound bags of our Full Circle Food Scraps compost. This happens to be a triple screened product for really fine stuff. And we're proud to have it available at our compost facility, as well as Robinson Hardware and Garden Center in Slingerlands sells it this spring as well. We're probably going to be expanding to other area businesses next year, but this spring, a lot of local garden centers had already been sort of preparing for the onslaught that was last year of just selling out of everything. It hasn't been quite so crazy as it was last year with more people home doing landscaping. But so that's my presentation. We're proud to be doing our part to compost food scraps, but like I said, we're still kind of expanding and scaling up, and it's going to be a continual growth process for the next several years till we kind of reach our peak capacity. I know there are a lot of questions, but I also know there are other presenters. So thank you very much.
One quick question that I did see, Dan, that I think is important was from Jeff Cahill up above. And he was asking how you ensure town data on the level of chemicals in the bagged compost.
Yeah, we have lab tests that show that thankfully chemicals from pesticides or herbicides have not been an issue. Between the town uses a strict protocol for time and temperature that all municipal facilities have to use. The compost piles, the active composting process has to be 131 degrees Fahrenheit or higher. It's often 150, 160 for a while. And we have to have extended periods. It takes, with a turned windrow method, it usually takes us 9 months to 12 or even sometimes 15 months to compost. Thankfully, between the time and temperature, the heat and the amount of time involved, and the dilution of any possible chemicals, because if you think about it, a lot of the yard waste that we compost are leaves. We actually do vacuum collection of loose leaves in town. So that's at least half of what we're bringing in is just leaves. So it's not going to have any chemicals. And then the mixed yard waste is a lot of branches and brush and hedge trimmings and things to go along with the grass clippings, which would be of more of a concern for any possible herbicides or pesticides. And then thankfully, a lot of people are not even using them nowadays. But between the dilution of all the other types of yard waste and the folks that aren't using them and the time and temperature, it's not been an issue. It can
And
potentially
you guys do test it.
We do lab tests to show that. I mean, I've heard through the DEC that there have been a couple of rare cases over the years with really persistent pesticides or herbicides actually that were in large concentration that were a problem, but by and large, it's not an issue at all. And, lab testing is something that needs to continue to happen just to make sure that's not a problem. But you'll find, those folks, I'm certainly not one of them, but those folks that do use chemicals on their lawn, you can tell that they have them back to do that repeatedly, and that probably wouldn't be something that was necessary if they persisted for very long. Certainly not more than 9 to 12, 15 months. But like I said, between the time, the temperature, and the dilution, we have a good recipe for a very high quality and safe compost, as you'll see when you use it to grow your plants.
Thank you, Dan, so much. We should move on because of the timing here. We've got Sonny Von Tiedemann with Albany. He's the recycling specialist of Albany, and they just rolled out a great program in Albany, and I will let him take it from here. Is Sonny on?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, we can hear you now, Sonny.
Okay.
Now we can't. Are you there, Sonny?
I'm here.
Okay, go ahead. I'll let you take it from here. Tell us what's happening in Albany.
What about my video? Or is that not important?
You're on mute, Morgan.
Are you sharing a
I'm trying to share something, yeah.
Go ahead.
But it's just not sharing for some reason.
I just stopped sharing, so maybe now it'll work.
You guys don't want to see the Nick game, but hold on.
Maybe we do.
Let's try that one more time. No.
No, it's not working yet.
All right, hold on. All right, you see the Albany Recycles website?
No, I don't.
You don't? What about now?
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I'm gonna keep mine short and sweet. So we got a grant from the DEC, thank you DEC, to do community composting. Also thanks to Tina Lieberman from Zero Waste and my coworker Megan Ruby, who some of you might know. They put together a great grant, and it gave us the opportunity to do some things that the city never even thought to do. So we have 3 different options that we're going to be, or we've already started offering to city residents. The first one is backyard composting. We're going to be providing an earth machine to anyone that signs up, anyone that lives within the city that wants to do it themselves in their backyard. We're going to be supplying a kitchen scraps bin with that as well, including an unlimited supply, more or less, to browns, to carbon materials. So we've allocated some wood chips and some other yard waste at our yard waste facility to anyone who wants to come down and get for their piles. With the backyard composting unit, they're going to get a brochure that kind of runs through how to do like lasagna composting, layering, and also what happens through the seasons and other troubleshooting questions, how to deal with rodents if they come about, or smells, stuff like that. And then the last piece of the backyard composting option is we ask them to provide us with some monthly data. The idea being we want to keep track of how much people are putting into their bins, and then therefore how much we're diverting from our landfill, because that's the main thing here. We obviously, most of you know that the City of Albany landfill is coming to a close sometime in the near future. So the main objective of this is to keep track of how much we're diverting and to try to increase it as much as we can over the next 10 years or five years even. Okay, so that's backyard composting. The second option is we've set up so far two, hopefully there'll be more in the future, but 2 drop-off locations. One of them is at the Radix Center, which is in South Albany, and the other one is at the Tivoli Preserve. And I think you might have seen in one of the prior presentations, there was a picture of a sign, and that was taken from one of our locations. And basically what it is there's a City of Albany sign. It tells people what they can and cannot drop in the bins. There'll be bins in front of the sign, and people can just come and drop their food scraps off. And our partner organizations have agreed to, take on this material and help process it, turn it into compost. And we're providing backing for that, including hopefully some funding and some staff to help along the way. And then the third option is a full service option, which right now we're working with Radix and Food Scraps 360 to subsidize the onboarding fees, the setup fees for their services. Hopefully this incentivizes more people to join their programs and have their food scraps picked up. The idea is just to give people a whole wide range of options, because with composting, as we all know, there's no one size fits all. Everyone has a different situation. Some people don't have the time. Some people have the money, but not the time. So our objective was to give people as many options as possible so that we could reach as many residents as we possibly could. So we actually just announced this in May, and it's been great. So far, we've gotten 200 signups for the backyard composting, and we haven't even really advertised this very much. There's been about half as many for the food scraps drop off, and there's been a few for the full service option as well. So, I mean, we're hoping to continue this even after the grant ends in 2022. The city's dedicated to allocating money towards this going forward. So, I mean, the goal is by, 2030 to have as many people as possible. If we can get every household in Albany composting, that's the goal. So, yeah, we're in for the long haul. And even, even the commissioner said he's willing to do drop-offs and deliveries of backyard composting bins. So the whole department's on board. The mayor's on board. We're actually, she was one of the first people to sign up. So it's really gained a lot of momentum in the city. And we're hoping to continue that. There's been a couple issues in the early days, just things that you don't foresee when you roll out a public program, especially because we're pretty short-staffed right now. But we've been able to work through them, and so far everything's good. So yeah, we're really excited about the program.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Sunny. And we are very excited about the program too. if nothing else, this presentation hopefully really communicates the collaboration between municipality, private organizations, schools, all coming together for this initiative. And it really requires that. The state level, it really requires everybody participating and everybody coming together. If you go ahead and stop sharing, Sunny, then I'll take over.
All righty.
Thank you. So in January of this year, I was nothing more than a mother of two, and I watched the film Kiss the Ground. And that what just sent me in this direction. And from there, I decided to partner with Diana Wright with Food Scraps 360, and here I am. And it was all really from that film, which is why I can't recommend it more. But it feels good. It feels good that now our trash, we bring our trash bin to the curb once a month for our family of 4, because the great majority of our waste is recycled or recycled in the form of compost. And that is a beautiful and incredible thing. So we will move on to Monica Przejewski. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. I should have asked you for your last name pronunciation. Deputy Mayor of Troy. And let me give you a little backstory for her, because it's, again, more about the benefits of all of us working together. Monica is definitely in support of that. Monica is the Deputy Mayor for the City of Troy, New York, and oversees the day-to-day operations of Troy government, managing all city departments and municipal employees. Prior to her appointment by Mayor Patrick Madden, Monica was the Economic Development Coordinator for the city and the founding Executive Director of the Troy Community Land Bank. She has worked to continue the development of downtown Troy, but more importantly, worked to spread the momentum to other parts of the Color City. As an ally to neighborhoods, community organizations, small businesses, and large developers, Monica works to provide an inclusive approach to reimagining Troy, knowing that it takes more than just the municipal government to do the work. Monica?
Hi, everybody. I'm Monica, and it's Kuzieski, but you were close. It was good.
Thank you.
It's all good. I've been called worse. I just, and everybody knows, I usually talk like pretty straight. So I'm laughing because I'm sitting here, I feel like I'm at a conference because I'm taking notes as Mark's talking. I'm like, oh, wait, maybe we could do this. So I'm going to go back and Renee's going to get all these notes. So I'm in place of Renee Panetta. She is our recycling coordinator. And I have to tell you, she is phenomenal. We would not be where we are right now without her help and her dedication to this earth, but also her passion. And we also recently, Troy's always in the news, so you can tell that it's been a very big conversation around garbage in the city and trying to implement a pay-as-you-throw program, which is a Herculean task in our city. But we, through all of that, with our comprehensive recycling plan that we submitted to DEC, and I will tell you, 4 years ago, we were so behind in all of this. We knew that the conversation had to happen, but we were so far behind in all of this. And we have done this incredible journey in a very short period of time, not without a lot of help from private people. We established a solid waste advisory board of residents in the city who have similar passions, just like many of you who are on here. And they helped formulated that plan for us, and they helped put together the trajectory of what we're actually working for right now and working on our plan. So anyway, so where we are currently, so we're talking about composting. We are nowhere near Mark, we are nowhere near Bethlehem, but we are on our way. So right now we have renamed the Alamo. So we're retrying to brand our stuff. If everybody knows from South Troy, what was formerly known as the Alamo is now the Troy Resource Management Facility. Renee has done amazing wonders down there with our general services team to actually get that back into a nice little transfer facility, essentially. It's a recycling facility, non-transfer facility, sorry, DEC. And what we do there is we take our brush and our yard trimmings and our leaves. That's where we do our hazardous waste day. It's where everything goes that needs to be put on a truck and diverted somewhere else or taken somewhere else. We do all of our brush and yard and leaf collection. We do that throughout the city. Our staff will do it. You put it out on your curb, we pick that up. We take it down there, or residents can now drop it off at the facility as well too. And what we've also done is implemented the free wood and mulch chips to all the residents now. So on Thursdays, they can go down, we don't have them in pretty 40-pound bags, but we can certainly get that so people can take that to their home. In concert with the new DEC program that's coming out in the beginning of the year, Renee and her team and the Solid Waste Advisory Board are already generating the list of the large-scale generators, working with them and making sure that we're partnering with our large-scale generators to make sure that they're going to be in compliance. The comprehensive recycling analysis takes into consideration all of the garbage within the city, not just what we are transporting or we are taking out. As far as locations where we're already doing composting, obviously the farmers market has led the path for many, many years. Now they partner with Food Scraps 360, and they take out about 450 to 500 pounds on a weekly basis from the farmers market alone. And then we also have the farmers market as a big example of the region, so to speak, have switched to environmentally friendly packaging. And they also require their food vendors and stuff to do the same. So that's something we're trying to model throughout the city. We did pass the trifecta, the ban on all of that, which was a little weird after last year because the way that we had to change things up a little bit. And I still think, going back to Mark's conversation about the plastic spoons, my husband and I were just talking about it. Everywhere you go now, you get a plastic spoon in a plastic wrap, even though we have a bag ban. But anyway, so we do have, one of the things we do have in Troy, we have community gardens, we have Capital Roots, which we all love them as a region, but we also have a lot of small scale farmers in our municipality. We're really trying to embrace urban farming through fits and starts as far as some other challenges go. But many of those are doing small scale composting at their farms as well too. We have the Sanctuary for Independent Media. We have Soulfire in the city, which is coming into the city and actually doing some backyard kind of components as well. We have Christian up in Lansingburg, who is doing an amazing job up there. Edible Uprising up on the hill, and then also in South Troy at the 2nd Street Farm. So there's 5 locations outside of even, my dog's gonna bark, outside of, the neighbor's got a little pug like this big and my dog's 90 pounds. So he thinks that's lunch. So the 5 individual entities, as well as what we're doing on a neighborhood level, what we're doing at the farmers market, and also all of the others that are doing stuff as well. Bethlehem talked about doing the rain barrel and the composter sale. This is our 2nd year participating in that program. Each time we've done it, we've done about 80 to 100 barrels. And items have been given out to our community. So we know that it is something that our residents are looking to do and then educate themselves as well. So we want to embrace that and give them the resources we need to just to continue that. We have actually launched, we're getting ready to launch a new online platform for all of our residents. And it's a municipal-based program called Recollect. And what it does is it actually feeds out information to the residents. It can give them contact information. They can contact us. So all of the Troy residents should be on the lookout for that coming out soon as well too. Looking out, I do know that Food Scraps 360, they're looking to actually, the residents have asked, and so they're actually looking to do a drop spot location in the city in the next very soon future, maybe within the next week or so. Once they get enough volume, then they'll actually start looking at curbside pickup at individual residents throughout the city. So I think that's phenomenal. But we do want to, in the next 1 to 5 years, actually build that program. I mean, Bethlehem's, the aerated static piles would be phenomenal if we could figure out the space and the trajectory to do that. So, we're also looking at down the pike to be able to make sure that we're a partner, whether it's a regional facility or if it's a smaller scale that we do on an individual basis with the city. I do know back in 2014, when I was doing economic development for the city, there was an initiative. It was a tri-city initiative with Water Velite, Troy, and I can't remember if it was Manans or Albany, where we were looking to do something like that as well too. It didn't get funded, but I think that was as we've heard it tonight, even from DEC, 3 to 4 years ago, it was a very different landscape in the conversation of what we're having now. So I will be the first to tell you, as I told all the partners on this earlier call this week, we need to be talking garbage in the capital region. Nobody's talking garbage in the capital region, and it's a really big issue that's going to haunt us. We all know what tip rates are right now. We in Troy are uber happy the fact that we don't have a recycling fee. We have that transfer facility in South Troy, where we have a long-term lease, and we actually were able to lock in our recycling rates. So we aren't really as impacted as other municipalities are, which is a blessing. But it's also something I know that's not going to last forever. So it's really imperative that the region has conversations about that. We do have large scale landfills in the region. As we've heard tonight, those are limited in time. So I'm very grateful everybody on this that are having these conversations and looking for solutions to be able to get us where we need to be down the line. And that's it. Hopefully I got a whole lot. I said a lot, and
Thank you.
Renee does a much better job. So
No, you did great. Thank you so much, Monica. And you brought up a great point at the end there that we need to be considering our waste. Like Mark Warford said, we are almost victim. Oh, there's that dog. We are almost victim of things being too convenient. And because we can just put it on the curb and never have to see it again, we don't have to worry or wonder or even think twice about where it goes, how it's managed, what happens, and how important it is to consider what we bring in goes somewhere. And so that is what Mark is trying to teach at the base level, and we really are just trying to teach throughout the Capital District now. So that's great. And last but not least, we will turn it over to Heather Ipsen. And she's Innovation and Performance Specialist of Schenectady. And I think she's pretty new to the role. And Schenectady is a little newer to this initiative. But we really appreciate you being on this call, Heather. And we are curious as to what you have to say about Schenectady.
Yeah, thanks, Morgan. So yeah, we're new to the game. We're maybe a little bit behind, but so the city of Schenectady doesn't have a recycling coordinator, and nor even a sustainability coordinator. I kind of am in that role along with one of my coworkers. We kind of tag team doing sustainability initiatives for the city. But that said, the county has done quite a bit. They are also the Cornell Cooperative Extension for the county, I've just been informed, is hiring a new recycling coordinator. So we're definitely going to be in touch with them to try to coordinate our efforts together with them. But in the past, the city has actually done composting at a large scale before. We had a facility that was accepting food scraps. But when I spoke to our director of general services, he said that they had a lot of issues with smell and improper upkeep, and it just wasn't run very well. And it was done for a long time, but they had to ultimately close it down because of that. And then the county also has a compost facility that's been up and running for a very long time. And I think I saw Nick Klemczak is on this call too. And he is in charge there. So maybe he could answer some more questions about how the county is doing composting right now. But they don't do food scraps right at this point. I think they did in the past, but again, had some issues with birds and smells and all the fun things that can go wrong with composting, unfortunately. So right now, kind of where we're at is sort of looking to other examples for how we might be able to start a small pilot program and then transition to something a little bit larger scale. So we're going to try to take advantage of a couple of the grants that are out there. The DEC is offering a good one, and the USDA also has one that we're looking into. So the main idea for the pilot right now is that we are going to potentially partner with SICM, which is Schenectady Intercity Ministries, and Schenectady Urban Farms, to help them start their own compost pile near the food pantry, because they'll be, obviously with this new DEC law, they'll be, or I shouldn't say that, new state law, they will be receiving a ton more food donations and probably a lot more than what they know to do with. So they will need a good composting system to prevent having a lot of extra waste. So the idea is for the city to kind of help support that, and then have them kind of start a small network of composting sites. There are 3 urban farm sites that they already run. I think at least one of which already has a compost site, but I don't know that the other ones do. And so we'll have at least 3 around the city, and then potentially 4 if we can transition there's a vacant lot nearby the food pantry, and we're hoping that we might be able to figure out how to get that for a good compost site too. So it'll just be a matter of kind of building out a smaller, or creating a small network and then kind of building it up throughout the city if possible. And then eventually it might be good to also look into sort of more of a large scale operation to help. There are large scale generators within the city of Schenectady, like Price Chopper and some of those other larger chain restaurants. So we're gonna have to try to help them too. So I've spoken with a few folks at the county, and we're gonna see if it might be feasible to eventually, this was obviously a long-term project, we might be able to accept food scraps at the county composting site again, and see what we can do with that. So it's very preliminary, and this is all just kind of my thoughts that have happened within the past couple months, but we have a small group of us that are getting together to discuss this, and hopefully it'll just spring from there. And yeah, that's kind of all I have right now. So any questions I'm happy to answer too.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Heather. And again, this is meant to bring together all of these collective ideas and things that are working in different areas and things that aren't, and things that have already started in certain regions, like in Bethlehem with their facility going. And thank you, Dan, for showing us all the details on that. And with what Mark Warford is doing at the school. And then every one of you on this call is here for a reason, and you're interested, and you can then help also take that back and either sign up for backyard composting, recommend that your friends and neighbors do it, sign up for curbside composting, recommend that your neighbors and friends do it. Talk to your city council and try to help encourage the momentum and the ball moving. So we really appreciate everybody being on here from the bottom to the top. And we'll go ahead and let Megan take over with the question portion. If you did ask questions already in the chat, maybe they were answered in the chat. And otherwise, if you still have a question, go ahead and stick it in there, and we'll try to get as many questions answered in the next 15, 20 minutes as possible. Thank you, guys.
Sure. So I'm happy to read out a few questions, and Tina, you're welcome to as well. I'll try to pick out a few that seem like they could apply to everyone. So there was one question about what local farmers are using regenerative agriculture methods, which was talked a lot about in the Kiss the Ground video. So a little while ago, I posted a link in the chat. I'll post it again. But Regeneration International has a great farm map on their website where you can enter your zip code and find some local farms nearby that are using those practices, and contact them. And then I'll also just say that just talking to your local farmers at the farmers market or reaching out to local farms is a great way as well to learn more about their practices. If anyone wants to jump in, from the panel, they're welcome to.
We just added, I think it's called Lovin' Mama's Farm from Amsterdam. And they're also at the Troy Market. And I believe they're a regenerative farm that subscribes to that practice. So there's, and then Climax Farm at the Del Mar Farmers Market. So Megan, you're right on point. Go to the farmers market and just start asking questions and know where your food comes from.
Absolutely. All right. Another common question that was asked a few times was where can we drop off food scraps? So we talked a lot about that throughout the presentation already, and shared some links. In Albany, Sunny shared from the Albany Recycles website, you can find all those different options. And then throughout the region, there's resources on the Zero Waste Capital District website as well.
There's a question also for Mark. How much did it cost for you to implement composting at each school? Are there multiple schools, or was it just the middle school? That's something to clarify. And does it cost? How much does it cost?
Yes, yes. Every school in the district composts their food waste. All 5 elementary schools, the high school, and the middle school. The cost of the service. Everything got suspended last year, so everything has been put on hold, and we are using compostable trays. But right now, so the actual, we have garbage cans that collect the food waste, and then we put it in the tote outside for the collection service. And so it's somewhere in the area of $4,000 to $5,000 a year for a service to be picked up for the entire district. Once a week, at the end of each week, they pick up, and that's the way to go. We have the earth tub units at the middle school, but if you really truly try and manage your food waste on site, that's a big job. If you don't aerate it properly, if you don't have enough dry matter in it properly, you got a stinky pile of food behind your classrooms that become an issue. So contracting out with a company that will compost that is definitely the way to go. And it's not a big financial burden. When you've got a school district that has, millions of dollars of a budget, $4,000 or $5,000 a year to do that is not a tremendous amount of money. So
to do the right thing and lead by example. And the company that Mark has contracted with is called Natural Upcycling, and they are a step above Food Scraps 360. They take the major grocery stores, schools, major food waste generators. And we're not quite there yet. So we are happy they send us the little guys and we send them the bigger guys. And so that's I believe that's who, Mark, you've been using, correct, for all the schools?
Correct.
And do a great job.
But we're partnering at the farmers market now, Morgan, and at the Del Mar Farmers Market, we are now completely compostable. All our food vendors now have to serve everything in compostable, I think it's PSAF free compostable materials, Birchwood. Dan Ranger invests on that Birchwood flatware made in America. So we've got that going on. So
yep. BPI certified compostable stuff. So we're the composting company for the Del Mar Farmers Market and the Troy Farmers Market.
Bill Reinhardt had a question. How much new composting capacity is expected as a result of the new state law? So I think this would be for Christine. Any sense of job creation from the law?
Yeah, so we don't have, that's a great question. We don't have specific numbers or I guess data points for those, but I can just qualitatively say that we have a ton of room for increased growth in the composting industry in New York State. There is no shortage of food scraps to go around. This will be thousands and thousands of tons is still out there that's going to be uncaptured. So yeah, there's plenty of room to grow, especially at all sizes.
And Christine also just posted the link to the food scraps drop-off sites and food scraps residential services across New York State that she discussed earlier. So be sure to check out that map as well, especially if you're a little outside some of the cities that we've discussed. So lots of great links in the chat. Feel free to scroll through.
Also, I see Dave Smalley, did you have a question? Can you put that in the chat? If not, I can unmute you. Dave, you're unmuted if you want to ask a question. Or you can unmute yourself, actually.
Yeah, I see him as still muted.
Okay, and meanwhile, there was another question about any federal laws. Are there any federal laws proposed to promote more regenerative agriculture and to reduce subsidies for traditional monoculture? Anyone know that?
I would think maybe Christine, if anybody.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. The regenerative agriculture stuff is a bit outside of the realm of what we work on. So yeah, I wouldn't be able to answer that with 100% certainty.
There was another question from David. Can we send flyers to everyone in their homes explaining how to compost and how to separate our wastes and where to take all the separated items? I'm not sure, which municipality David is from, but if anyone wants to talk about the outreach efforts in the different cities, I know some of you covered them already.
I know in Troy that we are doing that Recollect system, which isn't necessarily a mail system, but it's another way to be able to connect to people through their applications, through websites and that kind of stuff. But we do literally old school mailing. Everybody gets a water bill. Well, I should say most everybody gets a water bill. They get their garbage bill on an annual basis. So we try to double down with those efforts so that we're not adding additional postage to the budget. Being able to put on the back side of a bill or additional flyers. Maybe we'll do one on recycling and one on, we can do some other things. Sometimes we do code reminders. So we do some old school mailings as well too, but a lot of it is, we have really hardy neighborhood groups. So we do a lot of this kind of stuff. We do actual conversations, we do presentations. Renee has done probably, I think, just in regards to the Pay As You Throw program that we're trying to launch for next year, she's probably done just 6 community meetings alone, just within 2 months. So there's a lot of outreach. There's a lot of us just going, into people's neighborhoods and just having conversations, whether they're good, bad, or ugly. And sometimes people don't want to hear this kind of stuff because they just want to be able to, the convenience of just tossing it and sending it away and somebody else paying the bill. But those are hard conversations to have. So a little bit of everything.
Yeah, right now in the city of Albany, I think David's idea is great. And maybe we can, now that we've got our voluntary composting program up and running, we can send something out with the water bill or with the waste bill. But right now we are introducing people to the composting program in farmers markets all this season. We're going to be in 3 or 4 farmers markets in the city of Albany, and we'll have tables there every week. So that'll be a great way to get word out to the public too.
Yeah, and in Schenectady, like I said, we don't have a recycling coordinator, so it's been difficult to find people who have time to go out and educate folks, but hopefully we'll be able to coordinate some efforts with them once they're hired. But I'm also thinking of working with our waste department to do sort of a better job with our recycling education too. I feel like we're lacking a little bit there. And there was a brochure that was designed originally to be mailed out, but it was extremely long and detailed, but just a little too much maybe. So I'm thinking I'll probably try to pare that down and work with them to send that out, because we do a lot of the mailing, old school, as you called it. So I think that's a good way to reach people in our city, especially. So yeah, it's a work in progress, but it's definitely something that has been on the top of my mind, because education is just such a huge part of it, for sure.
And again, going through the schools is another way. But these are great ideas, you guys. Thanks for sharing all those.
I know it's getting late. Maybe we got 2 more, one question and 1 comment. Does winter, this is for school, for Mark, does winter slow down the school composting?
No, kids eat all year long. So because we contract with the service picks up once a week. So we continue to compost right straight through the winter. We go right straight through. The earth tub units, they do have a heating coil at the bottom, but you know, when it gets really cold outside, when it gets into the teens and single digits, it is not uncommon for them to freeze. So we do the earth tub units come to a halt in the middle of the winter, but the composting doesn't.
The large scale facilities, composting facilities such as Town of Bethlehem's facility operate year round. The piles generate enough heat that the snow melts quickly off the top of them. So, you know, we go 52 weeks a year with composting.
As do we with curbside collection.
Right. So composting continues. We keep going through the winter. Don't stop. It may slow a little bit in your backyard composting situation, but I keep doing it and it keeps working. It just slows a little bit if you're doing backyard composting. Just to let people know, we will be posting to Zero Waste Capital District and Food Scraps 360 this presentation, a recording of this presentation, so you can find it on. You'll be able to find it on both of our websites. And also, I just think there's a wonderful point that Daniel Carlson brought up, that in response to Monica's suggestion that we all need to be talking as a region about our garbage and our waste and how to reduce it, and potentially a regional compost facility. So I do think that those conversations need to be had, and it would be great to see some of the people on this call move that forward. So
one great way to do that is by joining Tina Lieberman there with Zero Waste Capital District. They are an alliance with this in mind and looking at decreasing our waste throughout the Capital District. And they meet monthly, and it's just a group of volunteers looking to have an impact and make a difference. So thank you all very much. We will send out a collection of presentations in one big presentation to you all, should you like to see that or access that. And like Tina said, we will post the link to this video recording on our websites. So thank you again very, very much. And until next time. Bye, guys.
See ya.